the emotions of anger, frustration, hatred, envy, jealousy, insecurity, fear, anxiety, hopelessness, sadness, suffering, guilt, shame. They are all derived from the hormones of stress.
Stress isn't the enemy. It's part of being human and the human experience, but resilience is what allows us to thrive in the face of it.
Best part is you can build resilience. You can start today. Hello, everyone. It is an exciting day here at the Eversio Experience podcast for a few reasons. So we're going to start a little bit different tonight. I am celebrating today because my audiobook released on Audible last night. And that's exciting for lots of reasons. A lot of work went into it. But because I'm a super nerd, here's what's most exciting. Last night, was October 1st of 2025. And if you know me, if you've read the book, you know I'm really nerdy about numerology and synchronicities. And 10/01/2025, October 1st, 2025, is an 11 in numerology. And ones and sevens and 11s are huge for me. And I had no idea that it would publish then, because when you're working with Audible through Amazon, you have no idea. We submitted it on the 17th of September. They told us it would be ready a long time ago, and we thought it would never happen. And then there it was last night. So if you haven't read the book because you were waiting to listen to it, it's there for you. So please go check it out on Audible through Amazon. And, we've evolved now from the manuscript to the hardcover to the ebook and finally the audiobook. And now I can retire and finally get some sleep. So I love that. And another reason it's an exciting day is because Dr. Des and I, with a few of our colleagues here from Eversio, are heading to a big event this weekend called The New Human. And it's right here in British Columbia. We're going to be working with Dr. Kevin Preston, who is a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner. Dr. Zach Bush is coming, Stephanie Nosko, Richard Rudd with the Gene Keys, and even the angelic singer and musician behind so many of Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditations, Mei Lan, is going to be there. Oh, I get all of the goosebumps just saying her name. So that means that this is the very last episode where you are going to hear us as us, because we're going to be new humans the next time we record. And that's so exciting. We are going because we have both made a commitment, Dr. Des and I, to lifelong learning. We want to be lifelong learners. We're students of life. We're always growing. We're always changing. We're always evolving. We're never going to know all the things, and we know that. And we think a big part of being able to create change in our lives and in your life, or to find abundance, or to be able to create art, whatever it is for you, anything in life that you want to change is going to mean living outside of survival mode. And that's really what my book is about. And today on the podcast, we're going to talk about these two states of life. We're going to help you understand and really know what is true about the difference between living in survival and living in creation.
Yeah. And if you haven't heard us say already, welcome back to the podcast, because we're going to dive into this topic. And this topic affects every single one of us, and it's stress. But we're not just going to be talking about stress as a problem. It's really how to build resilience so that we don't get knocked down by life's challenges, because life is going to life. There is never going to be an endpoint where you are resilient and then you're done. You are continuously in a state of building your resilience.
Absolutely. And we love mushrooms, and we love all types of wellness. And I think the thing that you and I, Dr. Des, have really worked on over this last year is this retraining of our minds and our bodies to be able to respond in healthier ways, because we know that's really where the magic happens. So I think we'll go back in time a little bit if you're new here to the podcast, and really tell about my story, because I'm on the other side, and I'm significantly older than Dr. Des here, who, if you didn't know, was once my grade 4 student. So, there's a good 20 years between us, and I love that I'm watching somebody who's not going to go through what I went through, and I hope that maybe I had some part in that Dr. Desiree is just someone with an incredible amount of self-awareness, and it's really what this topic is today. But I was not her when I was 30 years old or 20 years old when I became a teacher. So really, I was an elementary school teacher for 20 years. And you can just imagine all of these little humans, anywhere between, I think the smallest class I ever taught had 18 students in kindergarten. And there was a year I had 32 grade sevens. Oh,
Wow.
grade sevens. So these are the human beings with different needs, different emotions, big energy. And that is stress in action when you walk into that classroom. So some days I would feel totally depleted before recess. Some days I'd feel depleted on the drive to work because my thoughts were so strong about what had happened in the days, weeks, months before. I'd already had myself worked up into total survival mode before I even set foot in the school. And if you're a teacher, I know you can relate to that, especially around report card time or field trip day or whatever it is. Some days I actually could catch myself thriving on that stress. Like, embarrassed to say, but stress gives us this energy rush. And I think I really started to look for that variety in my day, sometimes coming from stressful situations, totally subconsciously, that that's the truth. And I think that's the thing, is that a lot of us don't realize that we can become addicted to stress. And we're going to dive into why and how that happens today. When you're constantly in go, 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 your body is just flooded with stress chemicals like adrenaline and cortisol. You've heard of these. These are just hormones of stress. They are chemicals in your body, and they give you energy. They sharpen your focus, and they can feel very exciting for us. And over time, we can start craving them without realizing it. And I think this is a big part of the reason humanity is in this crisis that it is in. And I think of the crisis as just a lack of emotional intelligence. And I think what's exciting is that if that's what it is, if that is the root cause of so much trouble, we can do something about it. So the big problem is that if you are living in that wired state, that long-term stress, that emergency mode, that fight or flight, it just burns out your nervous system, your adrenals, it leaves you exhausted, it causes inflammation, led to arthritis for me, and you're very vulnerable to illness in general.
Exactly. That is such an important point. I really love that you highlighted that stress can be physical, emotional, or chemical, and even sometimes it can be all three of those things at once, right? Like we can think of not sleeping well, that's more of a physical stress. Or if you're dealing with conflict at home or with friends or relationship, that is emotional stress. Or even having way too much caffeine and having sugar, that can be chemical stress. And the biggest thing for us to realize is that our body doesn't really distinguish
Right.
between them. It funnels all into the exact same stress response system.
Yep.
That's it, period.
100%. 100%. And I think when we say to people the word stress, they often think of the emotional stress. So I love that you
Mhm.
pointed out that it's coming at you from ways you don't even realize it. And living in stress, or you can call it living in survival. And I'm a big believer you're in your own, there's only two. There's
Yeah.
only two. There's so many authors who I read in my kind of awakening years that talked about there's two ways to see things in the world, through a lens of love or through a lens of fear. And that's it. You're
Mhm.
either looking through love or looking through fear. And I think it's very much connected to the state you're in. And when
Mhm.
you are looking at things through love, you are in a state of creation. This is where you can create the life you want. And if you are looking at things through fear, you are in survival. You are in this state of stress. And this is where your body and your brain are knocked out of homeostasis. They're knocked out of balance. And all
Mhm.
disease is just that. You're
Yeah.
out of balance. And the stress response is just what the body does to innately return itself back to order. So it's
Mhm.
brilliant, right? We have this very adaptive system that humans have had since the beginning of time. And stress just signals the autonomic nervous system, which and a branch called the sympathetic nervous system, to move into this fight or flight state. And all organisms, we were just talking about this before we hit record, we're not alone in this. We're
Yeah.
mushroom nerds, and all organisms, including human beings, can tolerate short-term stress.
Yeah.
And when we look at nature, we were talking about chaga mushrooms because we've who doesn't wake up on a Thursday and talk about chaga mushrooms? Because I love thinking about how mushrooms grow in such stressful environments. And chaga is
Mhm.
just this great example because chaga grows in very cold, not so nice conditions. It grows on birch trees in northern climates. And I love that the chaga mushroom itself is very stressed in its environment. And in order to survive in that stress, it is drawing chemistry, betulin, out of the birch tree to create something for its own survival. And then when we harvest the chaga mushroom, we get to benefit essentially from its immune system, from what it has created in order to survive in this harsh environment. So mushrooms are experiencing stress. All plants are experiencing stress. All animals, including us as human beings, we're not alone, and we can all tolerate it in the short term. But once the event is over for whatever the animal that was running away from a predator, for whatever it is out there, the body returns back to homeostasis and to balance naturally. It's chronic stress that's the issue. In
Mhm.
chronic stress, we turn on the stress response and we can't turn it off. And now we are headed for some kind of physical, chemical, or emotional breakdown or disease. So I love that you talked about the types. And I think we could even go into more detail to tell people that physical stress is like Dr. Des, you went through it with how many car accidents have you had?
Mhm. Yeah, I had 2. I mean, one really big one, life-altering one, that is a physical stress on the
And you
body.
didn't ask for it, but your body sure had to respond to it, right? And there's so many people in our community who've experienced falls or
Yeah.
injuries of some sort, all of the athletes out there. And it can even just be a lack of sleep. And
Mhm.
I think there's so many people out there suffering from that physical stress on the daily, just your body having to go without the sleep, without those 7 to 9 hours that we've told you about in previous episodes that you need. And when it comes to chemical stress, this is all of the toxins that we hear about. This is the flu. This is the cold. This is all of the viruses that are out there. This is bacteria. This is your hormones are
Mhm.
chemicals. So how many episodes have we done now where we talk about perimenopause and menopause? That's
Mhm.
chemical stress in the body.
Mhm. Mhm.
Pesticides, we're always talking about why it's so important for us to be organic certified and not provide you pesticides in anything
Yeah.
that's coming in our products. It's heavy metals. We talk about why it's so important for us to spend the copious amounts of money on heavy metal testing because heavy medical metals are chemical stress to your body. It's your blood sugar levels, it is the pesticides, the poisons, and even hangovers because alcohol can be a chemical stress to your body and the hangover is the evidence of that. And then the
Mhm.
emotional stress. I don't this is the one I think we all this is the one we associate it with, right? It's
Totally.
your family tragedies and your mortgage and your taxes and the traffic and single parenting and your
Mhm.
job or loss of a job. These are the emotional ones. And
Mhm.
these things can all knock us out of balance, can put us into this state of survival.
Mhm.
And I think that I would love for you to talk to us before we get into how we're going to
Yeah.
help you with it. This is when the adrenal glands become activated, right? We're more
Mhm.
mobilizing enormous amounts of energy to overcome those threats or perceived threats
Yeah.
when this happens. Can you just give us a little background on what's happening with the adrenal
Yeah.
glands?
Yeah, yeah, it's important for us to understand exactly what's happening with our physiology because when we know more about this, we're building our awareness. And, like you mentioned, and we both mentioned here, physical, chemical, emotional stress, they're all funneling through the same stress system, and it's through the HPA axis. And you might have heard this term already before because we've talked about it a lot on the podcast, and it's really, an anchor in our nervous system. And so HPA axis, really what it means is hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. So it's this highway from our brain to our adrenal glands, which sit on our kidneys. And it's this process by which cortisol is made. And chronic activation of that system means that it can result in chronically high cortisol, or if somebody is just chronically stressed for so long, they may actually have really low cortisol, which we need because that throws off sleep. Brandy's talked about this in a previous episode with sleep, where We want cortisol in the morning and we want melatonin at night. Sometimes we might not have enough cortisol to wake us up in the morning. So that can throw off sleep as well as just chronic stress and activation of the system. It can throw off our digestion because rest and digest or fight or flight. When we're in fight or flight mode, this chronic stress, our body isn't thinking about digesting the food. It's thinking, ooh, all the blood that's going to my digestive system's actually going to my muscles, my eyes to take in more light to do all these things. Our thyroid gland, our hormones, we're not thinking about reproducing, we're thinking about surviving and also our immune health. So this HPA axis is really the cornerstone and this pathway of cortisol and how it's produced. And cortisol equals our stress hormone.
Yeah, I love that. I think so many people say the word without actually realizing what's happening in the body. So I love that you have taught people what they have actually experienced. Like as you're saying it, I can just imagine it happening. Like we've all been in that state. It's going to continue to happen to us. But when you know what's happening in your body, now you can start to manage your own health. And I think that adrenaline rush that and we say it as like the adrenaline junkies go after it. And it's true, that adrenaline rush that is created from the stress response for some people, like I said, becomes very addictive. And they can actually begin to use the problems and the conditions in their life to reaffirm their addiction to that emotion that created the stress response, right? They need that bad relationship. They need that angry coworker. They need that unhealthy eating habit. Like as crazy as it sounds, or that gambling, they need it for the rush of energy. And some people actually become addicted to a life that they don't even like in this case. So if you're listening right now, I want you to really think about what causes the stress response for you, and if there is some unconscious love of it because of the rush of energy that Dr. Des just described that you're getting from it, right? The emotions of anger, frustration, hatred, envy, jealousy, insecurity, fear, anxiety, hopelessness, sadness, suffering, guilt, shame. They are all derived from the hormones of stress. Those are chemicals derived from what we just talked about. And neuroscience tells us that 70% of people's thoughts are typically negative, and that is because they are living in a state of stress, right? It's just crazy to me that I lived that, such an unawareness that I was creating my disease. I created it, and I can take responsibility for it on the flip side. And I'm on the other side, but I have flares, and now I have self-awareness and can go, I'm doing that to me. Why is it happening? And can I go backwards and can I fix it? And I think that we know that we can turn on the stress response by thought alone. And it's because of the size of the human neocortex that we can do it. Our thoughts are so powerful. And somebody said to me way back when, if your thoughts are powerful enough to make you sick, does it not make sense that they're powerful enough to make you well? And that was all I needed to hear to know I could heal myself. And I think if you read the book, if you listen to the book, you will hear it did not come to me the first time, the second time, the third time with diagnoses and so much going on. Like I had to be hit over the head so many times in order to realize I was doing that. Your body is so objective that it does not know the difference between the real life experience that's creating emotions for you and emotions that you are creating by thought alone, right? The body is just reliving an experience over and over and over again, and you can subconsciously condition your body to the same future based on your past. And this is why talk therapy is so important for some people. And I believe in it, just like I believe in pharmaceuticals, that they are necessary for acute use. But when I was constantly living the story of my illness, and that's the story I was telling myself, and sitting in pharmacies and sitting in doctors' offices and telling myself the sad story of my poor me with, I'm so young and I have arthritis, I was reliving that diagnosis. I was reliving the day I was diagnosed over and over and over again. And I just had conditioned my body to make my yesterdays become my tomorrows. There
Yeah.
was no creation of anything new because I was in survival. There was no creation for me ever going on. And I know that is happening for so many other people out there. And I think there's so much that we can learn from being able to build stress resilience. So let's talk about that. We are all going to be in stress. We're all going to be faced with
Yeah.
any of those things. What
Yeah.
can we do so that you don't end up like me?
No, but Brady, this is the reality for so many people. And I'll even touch on my story too. Like, for those who have not heard, I believe we shared in episode 1, the why behind, why we started the Eversio Experience podcast, and even episode 2 on brain health. You and I really share that story of wanting to support our brain. And
Mhm.
through a car accident, I had a mild traumatic brain injury. I had a
Yeah.
moderate concussion. I couldn't even remember my friends' names. And,
Very young.
very young. I would have been 20, 21 years old.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me for many years. And really, when I finally healed was when I took nervous system healing seriously. And that is stress resilience. And that is the story for so many people. Autoimmune disease,
Mhm.
right? That's the story for so many people. It's managing chronic stress.
Yeah.
And we hear it's this buzzword term where it's like your nervous system, your nervous system. And some people don't really understand what that is. And it's our ability to manage stress, to
Yeah.
be calm, the mind-body connection. That's really what Brandy's talking about here. It's our thoughts. If we think that we can be healed and be resilient, we will be resilient. And I could hear you talk about it all day long because you're so passionate about it, but you're also on the other side of it. You are very real about the fact that we're in a constant state of being balanced, and then we're challenged. We're at our growth edge, and then we're, growing a little bit more, and it's uncomfortable, and we need to stretch our stress resilience muscle, and then we come back to it. And I think that's why you and I are so passionate about this stress resilience piece and about mushrooms. We talk about this all the time. Mushrooms bring us back to ourselves.
Yes.
Lion's mane was a really big mushroom for both you and I with supporting the brain, supporting brain fog, these symptoms, making us feel mentally sharp, because for us, we identify with that and being able to use our brain. And if we can't think properly, then we don't feel like we can be ourselves. But reishi is like this unsung hero that it's this like slow burning love for me because of its adaptogenic properties. And I think so many people could benefit from reishi because of how it eloquently supports the nervous system, and it's as an adaptogen. And so going back to this sciencey, mechanism of action portion, more understanding for us, these adaptogens are working by balancing that HPA axis, so that highway from our brain to our adrenal glands that produce cortisol. This is the system that manages the stress hormones. And so they don't push you in one direction. Instead, functional mushrooms are really bringing you back to a center when you're too wired or you're too depleted. And you call reishi the queen of mushrooms for a reason. Historically, it's been used in traditional Chinese medicine for over 2,000 years. It was reserved for royalty and monks and called the mushroom of immortality for a reason.
They knew what they were talking about.
They knew what they were talking about. In ancient texts, they even describe reishi as nourishing the shen, which means spirit or inner calm.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, modern research confirms it because reishi can help to modulate cortisol levels, making it so that it's not overproducing or, at such a low point. It's helping to calm this overactive nervous system and the pathways, supporting GABA, which is our body's natural, calm down chemical, and even strengthening immunity, because when we feel like we are rested and resilient, our immune system is intact.
Oh my gosh. So that's something that you can, again, that's, making a chemical change in your body to build that resilience for when the stress is coming that's coming. And I think we can't go on without talking about the refractory period, because I think when that chemical change is actually taking place, what Dr. Desiree is talking about, that time in your body during that stress response, that's called the refractory period. And that refractory period is different for everyone. And if you have a response to something, it could be here's an example from last night. I heard my daughter coming up the stairs from downstairs just as I was passing the doorway. And I thought, hey, she won't know I'm here at the top of the stairs. I'll give her a jump scare because it's fun to laugh. Well, she definitely had a stress response because I scared the crap out of her as she came to the top of the stairs. She thought she's going to have a heart attack. But that stress response was gone within 90 seconds for her because that is the physiology, right? When we produce those chemicals, they're in our body for 90 seconds. So why are people upset for hours, for days? So if you have a stress response and you choose to let it linger for hours or for days, that's called a mood now. You're in a mood and you are choosing to go back to the thought of what happened and allow your brain to be stressed out about it again, even though it's not happening to you. And people that let it go on for weeks or for months, that starts to become your temperament. People just know you as, oh, that person's just angry. What's wrong with her? Oh, she's angry. She was in a bad mood and now she's still in a bad mood. Well, why? Well, there's a thing that happened to her last year and she's can't, right? And you can't get past it. Well, and that's it. If it goes on for years and decades, it's a personality trait. That's who you are. And people become to know you by this thing that you are choosing to allow to linger. That's just a really long refractory period. So in other words, most people's personalities are all about the past. And during that refractory period, when the chemicals are altered in the body, like you described, there is a gap between the way things appear and the way things really are. Right? Our perception is altered when our physiology is altered. And this is why when your husband reacts to you and says something stupid that they never should have said, there's never a time when you react during that refractory period that you won't say, I should never have said that. I should never have done that. I should never have sent that email. I should never have pressed send on that text because you were acting during that refractory period when your physiology is actually altered and you are not perceiving things like you would, right? You are physically not yourself when you are in that state. So if you can become aware of that, you've got power back in your life, right? Most people don't think they can control their emotional responses during that refractory period. And the truth is that you can. You can catch yourself and become self-aware. Don't continue to review that event over and over again because you're just going to produce the same chemistry in your brain and your body. You're going to keep it going. You're going to keep it going and you're going to keep yourself in that state. You have to break the addiction, shorten the refractory period of your own emotional responses. And this can allow you to intentionally begin to work better with your family, work better with your colleagues, be a better friend, to collaborate more, to communicate better, to become more creative, right? We can support others because there's more empathy available to us. And this is called emotional intelligence. That's all that is. So one thing you can do is preload yourself with an adaptogen so you're physiologically prepared to be able to shorten that. But the other thing we do, and I think we do it in the office, I'm going to say every day, is you can use your breath. You can literally use your breath. You'll feel it. You know when you're having that response. If you can stop yourself, I literally say the word stop to myself in my mind and use your breath, whatever that is for you. Dr. Des, I know you like a box breath. Do you want to describe what that is?
Yeah. So a box breath is you just imagine a box. So you start in the bottom left-hand corner and it's a square. So it's equal amount of time on each side of the square. So you start in the bottom left, you inhale for 4 seconds, then you hold it for 4, then you exhale for 4 seconds, and then you hold for 4. And then you can just repeat that as many times as you want. I'll typically do 4 because it's all fours.
Because it's all fours. I'm imagining doing it as you're saying it. It is incredible how quickly you can bring yourself. Like I said, those chemicals are only around for 90 seconds. So if you want to stop the response, stop the stress response, if you can catch yourself that you're in it, and then you can do that breath, by the time you go through that 4 times, you're done. You're back in creation. You're out of survival. And you did that to yourself. And you will feel that if you've been using something like lion's mane or reishi, if you've been using an adaptogen before, that can change so fast for you when your body is ready to do that tuning in. And another breath we love is the 2X breath. So simply, I do it when I'm driving all the time. If you breathe in for 2 and hold at the top, then you breathe out for 4. So just
Mhm.
doubling the exhale, breathe in for
Mhm.
3, breathe out for 6. My gosh, that can literally
Mhm.
stop an anxiety attack in its tracks. And I know there's people out there saying, no, I have terrible anxiety. You don't know what it's like. I have lived with someone and I've watched it happen and it works. Your breath can stop an anxiety attack if you've done the work ahead of time, right?
Mhm.
You're not going to learn that in it. Do not try to
Yeah.
teach someone how to breathe when they're having an anxiety attack.
Yeah.
Trust me, it doesn't work. You're not teaching them anything, right? They're not capable of learning. They're in survival. But if you
Mhm.
do the work beforehand I think of it like building a little toolkit,
Mhm.
and they've got the idea and then they can have self-awareness that it's happening and go to the breath, you never have to have one again. It's amazing.
Mhm.
You are literally shortening your emotional response, right? The release of those chemicals, because in the past, the release of those chemicals happened when you ran or when you
Mhm.
fought. I'm
Mhm.
not fighting with
Mhm.
anyone. So you have to release them somehow, right? And I
Mhm.
think the thing that people don't realize is that when you have those chemicals in your body, especially if it's by thought alone, you're
Mhm.
you're causing a contraction in your tissues, right? And there's a tissue breakdown that's going on. There's disease and imbalance and degeneration going on because those chemicals are staying in your body, in your tissues for too long. And
Mhm.
energy gets just completely tapped out of your system when you live in that mode. And you feel that physically. You feel like disconnected, separate. Like you don't want to be part of what's going on because all you can think about, you're so hyper aware of your senses and
Mhm.
how you're going to find some relief. And you don't see the possibilities when you're in that state, right?
Yeah.
You are living in the past. Your heart and your brain are in a state of incoherence. You're craving the known, you're craving the comfort, the food, sometimes the alcohol, sometimes the drugs, the thing that's going to numb you and stop it from happening. And this is where people get into trouble with it. Where the
Yeah.
opposite, if you're in creation, this is where you can experience things like joy and love and hope and gratitude and get yourself into a state of healing because you now have the resources for that. And I can tell you that is all that happened for me. Is
Mhm.
I stopped I stopped living in survival and started spending more and more time living in this state of creation outside of stress. Now, do we get stressed every day? We get stressed every day. So we take adaptogens and we use our breath. The other thing we do, because we talk about it all the time,
Our favorite.
our favorite is we have a meditation practice. So, Dr. Des, do you want to tell people about your meditation practice? What does it look like for you?
So I do a couple different types of meditation per se, but I
Mhm.
would say the number one that you and I share, Brandi, is doing Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditations. Right now I'm listening to his out picturing one. It's
Yes.
28 minutes and 28 is a favorite number of mine. So
Her
I love
birthday's
that
on the
it's 20.
28th.
Yeah, exactly. 28's for me. So that's what I do every morning. And then I'll sometimes do it at lunch or later in the day if I want to reconnect or if I've had a stressful day. But another app that I use is called Activations, and it's by Mimi Bouchard. And she has these guided meditations, and she is familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. And I do pay for a subscription for that. And I love
Mhm.
it because there'll be cooking meditations. And it really
Yes.
just brings me back to my future self and manifesting and really projecting this image of what my future self is. So that's what my meditation practice is, and I'm grateful we can share
We
that.
love it to go for a walk together. So
Mhm.
Dr. Desiree and I will do laps and not say a
Yeah.
word to each other. People probably
Yeah.
think we're crazy, but we're listening to a walking meditation as we do it. And
Mhm.
that's reality. We have jobs. We're not Buddhas sitting on the tops of mountains. One day maybe, but we
Yeah.
have to we have to work and we have to live life. But if you can meditate while you're walking, our eyes are open, we're doing it, and there's lots of them out there. I can't tell you how renewed and refreshed you feel when you go back to your life after you have allowed your brain to have that break and to
Yeah.
just sit on that. Thank you for sharing. It's a personal
Mhm.
thing. A meditation practice is different for everyone. No two look the same. There's no right or wrong way. There's a chapter in my book where I describe how I found what I liked, but I give you so many options. And then there's a whole exercise there about creating your own meditation practice. And then once you're meditating, how to stick with it. Because
Mhm.
the biggest thing I've learned about meditation is that it doesn't work if you don't do it. It has to be a
Yeah.
practice, right? Just like
Imagine that.
it's no different than reishi. You can't take
Yeah.
reishi once and then phone us and say it didn't work. No, you have to be consistent with it. It's the cells of your body are changing all the time. So we have to be changing all of the time and supporting whatever life you're living. And if you know you are someone who is going to be exposed to stress, is going to have some time in survival, taking something consistently to help to build up the reservoir and having a practice that is helping to, I think of it as putting deposits in a bank account. It's because there's going to be withdrawals. So you got to fill that bank account well past what you know the stress withdrawals will be in a day so that you have something left and you're not headed for disease. So I do think when we are in creation, we are experiencing those beautiful renewing emotions and we are in a state of healing. And energy is created here, right? We can allow our body to work on growth and we can allow our body to work on repair. If you are someone who is unwell, this is the state you need to be in so your body can do what it innately knows how to do. You don't have to have a pharmaceutical if you create your own. Then there is no better pharmacist than the nervous system, right? We feel connected. We can focus less on our senses because we can dream of this new reality, this new future. And that's my meditation practice. So I'm a big morning meditator. I wake up early to meditate, and my meditations are often working on creating the future that I desire. I am manifesting while I am in that meditation. I'm literally picturing future me and then conjuring up the emotion connected to that picture. I'm having the thought and the feeling together, right? The electric thought and the magnetic feeling, creating an electromagnetic field that then I'm literally drawing me to me, drawing my future self in and creating that. So when we are in this non-sensory, I consider that, and I say non-sensory because my eyes are closed. So I'm not hearing anything because I'm listening to something specific. I'm not eating at that time while I'm meditating. I'm in a space where there's not a, overwhelming smell for me. I'm not seeing anything. My eyes are closed. I have blocked out the senses that are often the distraction for us. And that's when the brain and the heart can become coherent. We can begin to crave the unknown there, right? That's what life's all about. We can begin to crave this unpredictable future, not that one you were thinking about when you got stressed, but this life that nobody knows what's going to happen yet. And that is just being in the present moment. And that, to me, is the answer to stress. Get in the present moment. Forget about the past. Don't worry about the future. Get excited about the future and prepare yourself ahead of time for what we all know is coming.
Totally. Can you explain to those who are listening about how meditation can change our brainwaves?
Mm.
Because I think that science piece is something that is missing for people, and they don't understand. Okay, well, I'm meditating.
Yeah.
Probably could just sleep instead, right? Some people are
I literally
against
have
it.
people in my life who say, I meditate all the time because they go to bed at night.
Yeah, and I think you describe it so well, and of course you do because you are an educator and you have a gift of storytelling. But can you share with those listening, like, what does meditation do to our brainwaves?
Yeah, and I love that you're bringing up that that's what it is, because some people don't even realize that they can change their brainwaves. They think, I can't. I don't know how. I don't know how to change my brainwaves. Well, you do it twice every day, no matter what, because as you go to bed at night, you are moving yourself from beta brainwaves to alpha brainwaves to theta brainwaves and into delta. And delta is your sleep state. So we all do that every single day. You already know how to do it because you lay your body down. And if you think about it, you can actually feel that lovely space. We did a sleep episode and talked about that. When you're in theta, dropping between alpha and delta, feels amazing. I mean, that's where all the best stuff happens, creation. Then you're asleep, you're in delta, right? Your body is repairing, you're doing all that stuff. But when you wake up in the morning, think about it, you're just reversing out of that. So you're going from delta into theta, into alpha, and then to beta. And beta brainwaves, this is where we live most of our life. And there are 3 states of beta, right? There's low beta, mid beta, and high beta. High beta brainwave state is the stress response. We're not meant to spend we have all of these brainwave states for a reason. We were created with all of them because we're
Yeah.
supposed to experience all of them. If you could learn to, meditating is just learning to move yourself between these brainwave states. So if you could learn what it feels like to be in high beta brainwave, stress response, fight or flight, sympathetic, whatever you want to call it, you're in survival there. If you could learn to change your state by breathing, by a walking meditation, by a true meditation, by whatever it is for you, change your thoughts and bring yourself down to mid beta. That's thinking, right? We're probably in mid beta right now because we're learning and we're discussing and we're being critical thinkers. Low beta actually is where you can kind of be in, like Dr. Des, you call it in, what do you call it? Deep work,
Oh,
right?
yeah, deep work. Yeah, put the music on. Let me get
Yeah.
in deep work. We're just
Yeah.
changing our brainwave states, but we didn't even realize it. And with
That's it.
music.
And you
Yeah.
create beautiful things when that happens. And you're probably just in low beta, maybe even dropping into alpha in that state. It depends. If you are in a meditative state, you have dropped into the alpha brainwave state. And it's just relaxed and creative. And you've all been there. You just might not have known you were there. But like when you think, like, I was in flow, I was in the zone, you're probably in alpha brainwave states. If
Mhm.
you can go even lower than that, you're just slowing, right? They're measured by hertz. So you're just slowing the brain waves down. If you can drop below into theta, this is a healing state. This
Mhm.
is intuition is available to you. This is the state of creation. It feels amazing. I'm always after it. I'm after getting more and more of it in a day. And then, advanced meditators can learn how to hang out there. I call it hanging out in the bliss field. And this is where we can get the work of creating our lives that we want done and give your body a break from survival mode by being there. So I love to do that in the morning to start my day thinking, I know stress is going to come at me, right? We're entrepreneurs. We're running a business. I've got kids. I have a husband. Life is going to life us, you said in the beginning. So I know if I start my day by hanging out in those altered brainwave states for a bit, I'm really building up my bank account of resilience so that I can afford those withdrawals through the day. And that's really all meditation is. I wear an eye mask when I do it because I'm, again, trying to block out as much sensory information as possible. I do listen to guided meditations. I am a big lover of Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. I think I probably have 50 of his meditations now. And I just literally let my gut decide. I roll through and I'm like, today it's blessing of the energy centers. I'm just clearing out some stuff. Today it is changing boxes. I'm in this thing, there's a thing going on for me, and I want to be over here, and I need to move myself from this box into this box.
Mhm.
We have so many different ways we can meditate. It's just choosing what you need in the moment. For so many people in my life, meditation is just practicing coming back to the present moment, building that muscle of not letting the mind wander to the grocery list, not letting it wander to
Mhm.
what's going to happen when I'm done this, and just bringing it back into the present and focusing on nothing as much as you can. So that even if that's your meditation is just to sit and repeat a mantra. So mantra just means mind vehicle. You just say a word, I am, or I am grateful, or I say swaha, which just means surrender in Sanskrit. But just repeating anything, even if it's nonsense, just to stop your mind from going other places is just giving your brain a break and helping you build that resilience. I hope that
Mhm.
helps with, what meditation and the brain waves mean for me.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that is so helpful for people, and I was just giggling when you said "swaha" because I think of your
Swaha.
I think of that story that you told me where when you were learning to meditate, you
Oh,
would say
yes.
"swaha," right? And you would be like, "Oh, yeah, add milk or add this to
Yeah.
the grocery list," or like, "Shoot, I need more laundry detergent,"
Yes.
or like, "Oh,
It's
I
the
gotta drop
truth.
Lila off here."
Yeah, it's the truth. When I started meditating, it was a hot mess. I thought I'll never be able to do this because I couldn't stop my mind from going. So I do love to make fun of past me and how it sounded in my head, right? When you repeat a mantra, it's silent. It's like a whisper of an echo in the back of your mind, I say. But you're having there's a conversation going on in your mind. And mine was
Yeah.
very much swaha, swaha. Is that the dog? Why is the dog here? Oh, I'm supposed to be meditating. Swaha, swaha. Is that my kid? I love you, but I'm meditating. Swaha, swaha. Put broccoli on the grocery list. Oh my gosh, the grocery list. Is there groceries? I'm supposed to be meditating. Swaha. Like it's It was not perfect, but you have to
Yeah.
start somewhere, and I got better very quickly when I did it every
Yep.
day. You can't do it once a
Consistency.
week. You can't do it once a month. It's got to be a practice, just like taking mushrooms. It has to be consistent in order for your body to start to be able to use what you've built up there.
Totally,
I love
totally,
that
and
story.
I I do too. It's I think it's so relatable for so many people, but, the main message here really is that resilience is built in the basics.
Yes.
There's, this person I follow on Instagram, her name is Dr. Nicole LaPera. She's called the
Yes.
holistic psychologist, and she has this book, and it's called How to Do the Work, and I remember reading
Mhm.
it, and, one of the biggest things she had said with stress resilience is, what are the daily promises to yourself? And she had somebody in her
Yes.
community who just drank a glass of water in the morning. That
Yep.
was a life-changing thing for her, and you might
Yep.
think, "Oh, it's just a glass of water. I drink 4 liters or 3 liters, and I got my water intake locked in." But for this person, it really meant, I'm not really great at drinking water. This is something that would really help with my energy levels. We know that.
Yep.
And she built this confidence within herself and this resilience and trust of, oh, I do things for myself and I
Yep.
don't give up on myself.
Yes,
I
the
don't give
small
up on
wins.
myself.
I think I might butcher this. You can you can fact check
So
this
just
on your
say it.
own if you're I think it's called Kaizen, is this Japanese philosophy of the
Mm,
micro change. And that if and that they think that way because when we have these small wins, it's better than no win. So
mhm.
just drinking a glass of water might sound ridiculous, but anything that you do every day, and for me that was walking. When I
Yeah.
started moving from really a more regimented workout routine to just like, I just have time to go for a walk, but then I did it day 2, and then I did it day 3, and then I did it day 4. So much more changed than just my physical health. I was so
Mhm.
proud of myself. I loved documenting this little thing I was doing just for me, even though it was this little thing. It became bigger because I started it with so much success because it was easy to get the success. So
Mhm.
I love that. And, I now will meditate for I would love to meditate for 2 hours every morning if I can. I aim for that. I sometimes stay up late and then I can't get up early enough to do it. But I'm at least getting an hour in. But I did not start that way. If you have
Mhm.
5 minutes, do the 5 minutes and be so proud of yourself. And actually tell yourself, I'm going to do 5 minutes every day for a month. You will want to do more by the
Mhm.
time you get to the end. You will
Mhm.
feel a craving for more because you've been restricting yourself to this little micro change. And that is how we build these big habits that make the big difference. I love the
Mhm.
glass of water.
Yeah.
Who can't benefit from just doing that? Showing up for yourself, checking something off the list, and knowing you're able to commit to a practice is incredible, life changing.
Mhm. Yeah, daily promises to yourself, and for somebody listening, maybe it's not a glass of water, maybe it is 5 minutes of meditation, maybe it is 5 minutes of journaling, maybe it's, some a green smoothie, like something like that. And the other thing too that's really a foundational anchor for stress resilience is mindset. And Brandy touched on this earlier in the podcast where she said, our thoughts create our reality, what we're thinking. If we can think that we're sick, we can think that we're healed. And so, what is the mindset for you? Instead of imagining stress and catastrophizing something like, oh, now my day is ruined, you're going to let 30 seconds ruin 24 hours, right? What's the mindset shift? What is this teaching me? Oh, this is teaching me to do something here. And that's what's building resilience. And then we don't get engulfed in the emotions of stress, and we're building this resilience of like, oh yeah, it happened, but I'm
All you can do
uh,
is laugh. How many times this week have we said,
yeah,
oh, the things that have happened at Eversio HQ, right? We
yeah,
have lost product. We've had product
yeah,
stuck at the border. We've had the
yeah,
FDA pull things. Now we're on another Canada Post strike. Like, hello, all
yeah,
you other small business
yeah,
entrepreneurs in Canada in another Canada Post strike.
yeah,
We hear you. Oh my gosh.
yeah,
But
yeah.
we just laugh. Like, if you're going to let those things get to you, you are going to create disease in your body, and nobody wants that. So we have to live in reality. Yeah, when we heard there was a strike, we did the, you're kidding me. And then it
Mhm,
was done. And we laughed about it and said, what are we going to do? And we came together as a team. We looked for connection. We looked for
mhm,
support. We looked for a solution, and we moved on. We
yeah,
can't sit in the stress if we want to live a life of abundance.
yeah, agreed. Mic drop. But I will share a couple other practical tips for supporting stress resilience. I mean, we talked about sleep. If you're not sleeping, getting those hours in, making sure that your body can actually mentally, physically, emotionally deal with stress by sleeping, then you're not
Yes.
going to be able to respond in that way that you want. Nutrition, blood sugar stability is a big thing. I've had patients who will say, I just, have so much anxiety. They actually don't have anxiety from their thoughts. It's from their blood sugar crashing.
Yes,
That
the
causes a
chemical,
stress
yeah.
response, a release in cortisol. So if you're thinking, why am I so anxious? Think about the foundations of what you're eating, making sure that you're fueling your body because it's interpreted by your body as a
Yeah.
stressful event, spiking cortisol.
Yeah.
Movement is another one, gentle movement, just movement in general. You don't have to kill yourself in the gym to be considered productive, to be, nourish your body. That was a big thing for me coming from a sports background, playing university soccer, thinking, I need to do 2-a-days. I need to work out and push my body to the max. No, going for a walk is a great thing of an act of self-love for myself. Yoga, walking, stretching, it helps to regulate cortisol and to reset the nervous system. Helps to regulate cortisol and reset the nervous system.
Yeah,
So,
and the fresh air and the connection to nature are not gonna hurt you. Like,
no,
and
definitely not.
if you can go for a walk with someone, I love to walk by often I walk by myself because that's just the reality of it. But when you and I go for a walk together, it's a whole other experience. And like we
Yeah.
said, sometimes we're not even talking, but the connection we get, there's no doubt we're creating oxytocin when that's happening. This is the best hormone there ever was. Craig and I often will walk after dinner, and it's it's great for our blood sugar. It's great for connection. We're in the fresh air and it's free.
Yeah. Totally.
So I think it's underrated. It's underrated. And I do love to still come home and go to a hot yoga class and move my body that way. And we should be lifting weights and doing all those things a couple of times a week. But if you walked every day, that's another one of those little tiny things that you could build up in the movement, stress, resilience category.
So here's what we want you to take away from today. Stress isn't the enemy. It's part of being human and the human experience. But
Yes.
resilience is what allows us to thrive in the face of it.
Yes. And the best part is you can build resilience. You can start today. Reishi, lion's mane, meditation, breathing, daily anchors, right? They're all tools that you can choose to bring in to your life starting right now.
Starting right now. What are you waiting for? Thank you so much for joining us today, everyone. Try one thing this week, just one, and notice how your body responds.
Until next time, friends, stay resilient. We love you.
Be well.